This is the story of Altis in 1974. The communist takeover, the resulting naval battles between NATO and Warsaw Pact forces, and its eventual recapture by the British. The islands that would become the Republic of Altis and Stratis have known conflict from the early 20th century until modern times. Historians of Altis and Stratis tend to focus on events on land. But locals know they live on islands. They are surrounded and their lives are dominated by thalassa, the sea. And they know the control of the islands inevitably falls to those who exercise thalassocratia, sea power. Word travels fast, and NATO starts to hunt the Soviet Mosquito fleet in the waters off Altis and Stratis. Oh 1:30 hours, 18 August 1974. The Bosporus. With Turkey in an armed conflict, under the Montreux Convention, shipping must only proceed by day. By night, merchant ships anchor, awaiting the dawn. Anchored in this busy waterway, the MV Melbourne Star. Her master looks across the water and sees a passing Soviet freighter, breaking the rules. But he also sees something else. Dark shapes concealed close against the hull of the Soviet merchant ship. Hidden from radar and from curious eyes ashore, 4 Soviet missile boats. The master, formerly an officer in the Hellenic Navy, immediately radios this information back to the shipping company using a company codebook. Tucked away in a nondescript office in the Greek port of Piraeus, the operations centre is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The message is decrypted and handed to the operations manager. The operations manager understands immediately what to do. He consults a map on the wall and prepares a message to another ship from the same company. A ship at the western end of the Dardanelles awaiting daylight to head east. Some hours later, and the merchant ship proceeds east into the dawn. The MV Strathmore is steaming to take up station in the Sea of Marmara at the eastern entrance to the Dardanelles. The master of this ship was woken from his bed by the message from the operations centre. The message read, "Monitor all traffic transiting Dardanelles next 24 hours and report." A veteran of this shipping company, he knows that the company owner, a reclusive Greek shipping magnate, is known to frequent the operations centre at all hours. Best to implement the orders promptly and thoroughly, he thinks. Sure enough, at 10:46 hours local time, he too witnesses the strange sight. Off the starboard bow, 5 ships in formation, on course to leave the Sea of Marmara and enter the Dardanelles. A Soviet merchant ship, from all appearances, with 4 smaller vessels in company. The crew look on with interest. It is not every day you see something like this. As the 5 ships disappear to the east, the master promptly radios the information back to company headquarters. A couple of hours later, and the Greek naval attaché to Northwood headquarters is interrupted by a ringing telephone. He looks around his office and answers the call. He instantly recognises the voice on the other end of the line. It is the operations manager for a Greek shipping line. The attaché's father once worked for the company when it was much smaller, but was killed in a tragic accident when the attaché was just a boy. The owner took him under his wing, looked after his education, and, in time, saw him appointed as an officer in the Hellenic Navy. The voice on the other end of the line says, "Here are the latest coordinates for our ships in the Aegean. Please pass these to NATO, so there are no mistakes." He then proceeds to read out a list of coordinates. The attaché carefully writes the numbers down. If anyone checks, and no one will, they would find that each set of numbers indeed corresponds to a coordinate in the Eastern Mediterranean. But there are no ships at those coordinates, at least none from the Greek shipping line. Using an ancient Greek technique, known by the Greek word steganographia, each coordinate conceals a code group. The attaché picks out an ordinary Oxford American dictionary from the bookshelf, of a kind found in many offices and homes, and lays it on the desk in front of him. Finally, he is done. The message reads, 1:30, 18 August, 4 Soviet warship, sailing west, Black Sea to Aegean. Tell NATO, stop. Later that morning, 18 August 1974, the Greek information, its source suitably concealed, causes a stir at Northwood headquarters on the outskirts of London, home to the headquarters of NATO's maritime component. The naval staff recommend urgent reconnaissance, to identify any threats to NATO warships in the region. But, they remind the commander, the Soviets have surface-to-air missiles on Altis. And possibly Stratis. Admiral Lewin, Commander-in-Chief, picks up the phone. "Get me Harry," he says. "Tell him we have a situation." Harry is none other than Admiral Harold Scheer, United States Navy, Commander-in-Chief US Naval Forces Europe. Harry in turn calls Dan. Dan is Vice Admiral Daniel J. Murphy, Commander of the US 6th Fleet. Currently embarked on his flagship, USS Little Rock, CLG-4. The commander considers the message in his hand. He looks at the map on the wall in his cabin and calls for his staff. Later that afternoon, orders go to USS Forrestal, CV-59, flagship of Task Group 60.4 of the US 6th Fleet. Overnight, Commander Peters, the air boss on Forrestal, plans a reconnaissance mission to locate the suspected Soviet surface-to-air missile site on Altis. First thing in the morning, he briefs the aircrew. Aircraft ready, the crew and their aircraft move up to the flight deck. The aircraft is a Northrop Grumman E-2C Hawkeye from VAW-125 Tiger Tails. The Hawkeye takes off. The Hawkeye's mission is to detect and locate Soviet SAM radars. To hunt the radars, she will use the General Electric AN/APS-96 radar system, operating in the UHF band. The radar, housed in the 24-foot rotating radar dome above the fuselage, can detect air and surface targets out to 200 nautical miles. And it can detect incoming signals from other radars. Listening for the telltale radar frequencies of Soviet surface-to-air missile batteries is her mission for today. Above the Forrestal, two F-4 Phantom from VF-11 fly combat air patrol. Patience is rewarded, and at 0715 hours local time, from 10,000 feet, the Hawkeye's radar detects a Soviet surface-to-air missile radar signature. The Ravens, or Electronic Systems Officers, in the Combat Information Centre behind the flight deck, carefully plot the bearing. Signals received by the radar antenna are sent to the 32-bit Lytton L304F avionics computer that forms the core of the airborne tactical data system. The incoming frequency and pulse match the SNR-75 fire control and tracking radar, NATO codename Fan Song, which indicates the presence of an S-75 Dvina surface-to-air missile battery, NATO codename SA-2 Guideline. The Hawkeye now moves along a series of straight lines. The Ravens regularly update their bearings, getting an ever more accurate fix on the location of the Soviet radar and thus the missile battery. The Hawkeye has taken a number of bearings to triangulate the position of the radar. Somewhere within the small triangle formed by the intersection of the three bearings is the missile battery, from which they can determine the threat envelope of its missiles, which have an effective engagement range of 18 nautical miles. The Hawkeye will relay this vital information back to Forrestal, who will pass it to Little Rock. And from Little Rock to Task Group 67.4, based at NAS Suda Bay on the Greek island of Crete. Where later that morning, the information on the Soviet SAM site is handed over to the next crew out the gate. From P3C Orion VP-26 Tridents, callsign Poseidon 3. The Orion's aircrew prepare for takeoff. And line up on the main runway facing west. The flight crew conduct their final pre-flight checks. Engines set idle. Flaps set for takeoff. And run up the engines. Throttle gradually forward. Rotate. And liftoff. Suda Bay to port. The Orion enters a gentle starboard turn north. The Orion's mission is to detect and locate Soviet warships believed to have entered the Aegean. Once again, they are patrolling the now familiar AO Troy. The assessment, straight from Northwood headquarters, states the warships are probably headed to Altis or Stratis, or possibly headed south to Tartus. First, the Orion will pass over the islands off the coast of Turkey, to confirm or deny the Tartus hypothesis. Then, with no detections off the Turkish coast, the Orion passes over the little island of Stratis. A somewhat cheeky move, but with no SAM site on the island, a justified risk. The aircraft descends to flight level 010, or 1,000 feet. The crew were told that the SA-2 guideline has an operational range of 24 nautical miles, but cannot engage beyond an 18 nautical mile envelope. The mission plan has the Orion chart a course around Altis that stays outside the engagement envelope of the surface-to-air missile battery located by the E2C that morning. As they near the island, the sensor operators prepare to collect imagery. Their first collection target, Joint Air Radar Station Mike 26. Before Stratis was taken over, NATO had built this structure to house an air search radar to provide coverage over the northern Aegean. But the radar equipment was not installed when the Communist Revolutionary Movement took over Altis and then moved on to Stratis. The operator idly wonders what happened to the people installing the radar. Next collection target, the airfield on Western Stratis. The imagery collected here will indicate the condition of the airfield and supporting infrastructure, such as buildings, hangars, aids to navigation, and fuel storage tanks. As well as the presence or absence of any aircraft. Then, the port of Ahia Marina. And sure enough, they detect a small Soviet missile boat. Later analysis will confirm the boat is a Komar-class missile boat. The Komar crew look up at the Orion as it passes overhead. The captain picks up the radio to warn his superiors at Pyrgos. In the next episode, a tactical mistake causes an international incident, and matters start to get out of hand. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. And stay tuned for the next episode.